There's very little communication between TNA and the outside world. There's very little communication between TNA and the inside world.
TNA is North Korea, you say?
No one knows what's going on.
Everything is gray.
What I do know is that several months ago, the internal memo came out stating that Discovery was not going to be renewing, or I forget the exact terminology, but it's off the air after September is what they said. And TNA has not been told otherwise. I have not heard any information from inside Discovery that has stated otherwise. The Discovery was taking the program and putting it in various markets around the world. That was one of the parts of the deal. And those shows Discovery placed around the world are now ending. It appears, I don't know for sure, God only knows what's going on, but it does appear that this is the final month for TNA on Destination America. Who knows? Maybe they'll announce tomorrow that they will continue on indefinitely. But it's not looking good right now. And I don't know where they go from here. Obviously, there will be restructuring involved. TNA obviously does have some international deals that they have worked out. They could continue to try to bring in revenue for those deals. They've downsized tremendously. There's only a few guys under contract now. Most everybody else is working on a per-date basis. So, I don't think that come October 1, TNA is going to be out of business. I think they're going to continue on. I just don't know in what form or fashion. They will be a high-end indie, I guess. They will be an indie promotion that tapes television for overseas. I mean, one thing about this that's interesting is, to the best of my knowledge, TNA has not been told anything by Discovery at this point. Now, if I were TNA, I would have wanted to know in June that they were opting out of their deal and they were no longer going to be broadcasted. I would want to know as soon as humanly possible so I could start negotiating elsewhere, right? We got to negotiate elsewhere here in this country. We got to try and find another television deal. Otherwise, we're just a weird independent promotion that tapes TV for promotions out or for television stations outside this country. I don't know what's going on, but it seems to me that this should be a bigger story. No?
Actually, it really should be, although that shows you the point that TNA has atrophied to. And I just want to rewind back for a second.
Kurt Angle has announced that he is not going to be re-signing with TNA. He was on the Mark Madden show and said, I'm going to take a break. I'm not going to re-sign with TNA. I'm not going to try to go to WWE.
Well, they're not going to take him, so it's what are you going to do?
Yeah, he said he had been asked about the TV status and said he didn't know. I hope to God something has worked out because I want the boys to work. There's so many great talents there. You want them to be on TV. I don't know where they're going to go. All I can do is the best for them until my contract is up.
Mm-hmm.
3 weeks left. And I haven't heard anything. The end of September, the end of the third quarter.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything either. I don't know. No one seems to know anything.
Man.
I don't know what to say. I mean,
Dixie has to know, right?
No, my gut is that, well, here's the thing. The fact that they got canceled from some of the Discovery properties is obviously a bad sign.
The overseas.
One of them is Discovery and Espanol is in the United States. That's
well, sure, yeah.
So they got, okay. So that's something, all right? But maybe the fact that there's been no announcement is because they're still talking and no one wants to make an announcement because nothing's done. I don't know. The problem is that if they're going to stay, I think that the only way they get to stay is for a lot less money. Because number one, when they were first signed, it was to provide countless hours of television. If you remember, they were showing Impact. What was it, 3-4 times a week? They were showing best ofs. They were showing all kinds of programming. Now they're down to the 2 airings of Impact, and that's it. So they've cut down on many less hours. They're running less hours, so they're not going to want to pay as much. Essentially, is what I'm saying. So it could be, and I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying it because people theorize this about Spike. Or if you remember at the end of Spike, it was always like, well, maybe Spike wants to own them, which thank God we're not hearing that one on, maybe Destination America wants to own them and they're pressuring them, which clearly was not the case. Or they're trying to get them for less money, which there may have been something to it, but I know that they went on Destination America for about, 45% of what they were making on Spike, 45%, 50%. I think it was a little under 50% of what they were making when they switched. So, if Spike was willing to pay them half of what they had made before, just with the exposure level, it would have been a no-brainer to take it. So obviously that was not the case because they switched. So now they're here, and they're, do they, if the whole thing is taking another cut, it's, obviously one of the things they can't do is they can't afford Kurt Angle. They probably can't afford Jeff Hardy. They're canceling people left and right, and the fact they haven't announced another set of TV tapings is certainly not a good sign. When they announce another set of TV tapings, I think some people are going to breathe easy because right now within the industry, everyone's kind of going with the idea that they're done, and they may very well be. No one's just confirmed it yet, but every day with the lack of announcement of that new tapings, not good. And just the fact of what Kurt said, and in fact is true, the fact that Kurt is probably the biggest star. Kurt and Jeff Hardy are clearly the two biggest stars in the company. The fact he knows nothing, and he does know nothing, speaks volumes. The fact nobody seems to know anything speaks volumes in a lot of ways, and not good ways at all. If you remember when the story first broke in May, they were being criticized for not telling their talent anything. Well, now here we are in September, and their talent knows no more than they knew in May. And they had that big conference call, and they, told them nothing then. And what can you say? Yeah, not looking good for. It hadn't been looking good for TNA for a long time. And again, they got a pay-per-view. I mean, seriously, is anyone ordering that pay-per-view? I mean, it's like.
Oh, you're talking Bound for Glory?
Yeah, I mean, no one's going to order it. Whether they're on TV or not, no one's going to order it.
No. And I want to start with this TNA deal because it's been 3 weeks, and tonight was the blow-off. And there's a lot of talk. The storyline was that the winning team was going to get the losers' shares in the company, or whatever the deal was. And Jeff Jarrett's team lost. And now the story is that there may have been more to this. What's going on with this deal here?
No, so it's like the match wasn't a shoot, but the agreement was a shoot. So
this would make sense, and we were wondering why TNA would be allowing Jeff to come on their television and shoot an angle for his promotion.
Right. It was exchanged for getting his stock away.
He basically bought the time.
I don't know exactly what the finances were of all this. They probably, what I'm guessing is that they offered him time to promote his brand, and in exchange, he gives them his percentage back to them because they don't want him to have it. He doesn't want it, and it was exposure for his brand, and it was a way to get his brand name over. I don't really know that it actually helped his ballpark shows. I mean, if you look at how they drew, it didn't seem like that much, but it may pay off. There's more to this story, and it hasn't broken, and it hasn't paid off. I should say yet. But
is it what people might think?
It's nothing like secretive. All it is will this exposure build the name of the company up enough to where he can use whatever name value they have and whatever power they have to broker a television deal. So
would that television deal be with Destination America?
It doesn't look like it. I mean, I'm not saying 100% no, but I've heard nothing in that direction at all. I've only heard and I mean, he's talked about it vaguely and cryptically. The only thing I've heard is a UK deal.
Sure.
And that's not a done deal at this point, as far as I know. But I mean, I think that they're more confident in UK. Obviously, they got that. They just hired that group in London to syndicate. So that's a sign that they think that they need their help. A, and B, that they're online for something. So they may have something. And if they don't, they don't. Jeff's. It is what it is. I mean, it's this. If they get TV, and they can get money from the TV. They can tape more TV and they can have a go of it. And if they don't, then they don't. And that's the reality of them. And TNA. So I guess the deal with TNA is that Destination America is going to keep them on till the end of the year. And
this was per a Dixie Carter interview that she did today. So this is not speculation.
Yeah, that's what she said. And then they got to negotiate a new TV deal after that. So I don't know if it's what the deal is. I mean, it's this, same thing with Spike. I don't know if they agreed to let them have the programming for less money, which is what I'm presuming. I don't know that. Or there could be a thing where, there might have been a legal fight over the contract. And they thought that it wasn't able to be, canceled, and they used the extra 3 months as kind of like a negotiating point to settle the differences. I don't know the answer, but they're, and they still haven't announced a new TV taping, so they've got no shows, but, they've got matches in the can and they can make do with what they got. And then the next step will be if they do something in India at the end of November.
So this, as noted, seems to be very similar to everything that went down with Spike. They've got, I guess, February.
Well, it's different than Spike, and I'll tell you the difference.
Well, I mean, in the sense that they're getting what appears to be, based on the memo, they're being given extra time to find a new home. Because the memo said third quarter of 2015, which would be the end of September, and it appears that February is the date that they will officially be off Destination America.
Or earlier.
Or earlier, sure. But they are given time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing with Spike, the reason with Spike that they were given time is, number one, Spike didn't want to screw him on the way out. And then the other main reason is because Viacom, CMT was part of Viacom, and they were hoping that TNA signed with CMT, which is part of their family, like Spike. So the idea was there would be a smooth transition. And they would, if they could have made the deal with CMT, there would be no break, because it would be bad for CMT to get something after it's been off the air for 3 months, a wrestling show. So that was part of the reason. And the other part was just that, they were willing to give them the extra time to be good sports about the whole deal.
Okay, here's my question about Spike.
Which they didn't need to do. With Destination America, because, again, this is not a Destination America decision. This is a Discovery Channel decision. So I don't know what that, again, I've speculated on the two things it could be on why they let it go a little bit longer. But it's not the same as with Spike, because with Spike, I know why they did it.
Okay, let's. Here's my question about Spike TV and CMT and Destination America. And I'm going to use, these are not the actual numbers, obviously. I'm just going to use round numbers to make a point. Let's say that they were being paid $1 million to be on Spike. They leave Spike, they go to Destination America, and now they're getting $500,000. Yeah. Now, granted, things went very poorly at the end for Spike. There was some lying. They were very upset. Is there a chance that Spike could go to them and say, listen, I know things went poorly, but you guys, I mean, you'll bring us 1.2 million viewers, 1.1 million.
I don't think that they're confident at all that they would bring them that number of viewers at this point.
Well, let's just say 1 million.
I think the brand is pretty damaged.
But is there any possibility that they will say, we will bring you back for the same 500? You're getting a serious cut, but you'll be back here and you'll get all these viewers back.
I mean, it's possible, but if you looked at like some of the Spike shows that they can actually get like ads for, Spike's got a lot of shows that are doing 1.5 and 1.8 million viewers now. And on the weeknights, the Friday nights, I mean, obviously they would do better on the Friday nights, but they own Bellator, and there's no guarantee now that TNA would beat. I think TNA would on Spike beat the bad Bellator show numbers. I don't think they could beat the good Bellator show numbers.
Well, no, but it was always a solid lead-in.
Yeah, but they don't. They already decided against that. You know, they'd done that before, that they didn't want them together. So it wouldn't be, you know, and the reason is they didn't want the Bellator starting at 10. They wanted the Bellator starting at 9. And so
yeah, but I mean, you could always put TNA at 7.
Yeah, well,
especially if you're paying them half of what you were paying them before.
Yeah, it's possible. I haven't heard anything from Spike about. I mean, they're not interested in wrestling because they did talk to Ring of Honor this year.
Sure,
but they didn't do anything with it. I mean, I've asked people about it. It doesn't seem like that there's anything in that direction. I mean, but I can't say it's impossible. One of the reasons that Spike dropped them was because they thought that on the Wednesday night they could put other programming in that would do better numbers, and a lot of their stuff that, you know, their mainline stuff like the Ink Masters and the Bar Rescue and everything. Those shows are you know, they're doing a lot better numbers than wrestling was doing, and they can repeat them over and over again, and they can sell ads for them at a much higher price. So it's not really that attractive to them. And even like again with the Bellator, I mean, you know, the Bellator inventory for like the show on Saturday night. The commercial inventory is, they sold 50 minutes of commercial time for Saturday night at, you know, whatever the price is, it's sold out in advance. So it's like, you know, TNA isn't like that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, even if TNA did the same number of viewers, it's like, it's not even close to as valuable. I mean, and again, they're also able to, you know, they're making Bellator is making tens of millions of dollars a year, international syndication. And that's a company that's owned by Spike. So it's you know, again, like you could look and go, oh, well, the ratings might be the same, but it's the value is so much greater right now for Bellator than TNA. Then it's just not even in the same ballpark.
Sure, but I would not even bring this up if not for the fact that based on the fact that they were downgraded to Destination America, it would be a huge value at this point for Spike to bring them back.
In what way?
Their value has tanked.
Yeah, but their value is tanked. That's the problem. The problem is that TNA. I mean, Spike is doing. You know, Spike's got shows doing better now than you know what I mean. They don't need them, and those shows generate far more money, and those shows that they're putting there, you know, they can repeat over and over, and the wrestling doesn't have any repeat value. I mean, I'm not saying it's not possible, but I know that one of the key reasons that they dropped TNA was because the ratings were declining, and they didn't want 2 hours of prime time, that they could put a new show in that would do better numbers, not to have that 2 hours a week. You know what I mean? So now, you know,
I only bring up TNA because if Spike is interested in wrestling, while TNA's value has declined greatly, at least they have a track record. Spike knows that Ring of Honor, I mean, they are not doing anything near what TNA is doing on Destination America, and they were
but the
following and proceeding.
Okay, but
Jeff has nothing. Jeff has no track record whatsoever.
Okay, well. Yeah, but they may want to. They may rather do Jeff than these guys, and it's not like there's any kind of a link there. But I mean, the thing. I mean, I'm not saying it's not possible, but I just know that from the reasons that they explained to me. Put it this way: TNA was doing well over 1 million viewers even at the end. If they came back now, they wouldn't be doing 1 million viewers. I mean, they'd be doing a whole lot less because the TNA value is way down. And I mean, why do you want wrestling in prime time when it's not even helping your station average? Because it would, at best, it would be average, which means half the ad rates, when you can put other programming in its place that would do better and garner more revenue. I mean, there's basically no reason unless you just want to have wrestling. And I don't think these guys at Spike, I mean, they really want kickboxing, just as an example, but they've moved their kickboxing out of prime time, and they really want kickboxing. So why would you add wrestling that they don't really have any great affinity for?
Well, you could move it out of prime time. It could be a lead-in starting at 7 to 9, leading into Bellator, and away you go. Although they don't want to do...
Yeah, but they put cops in and cops...
I'm just throwing it in as a possibility. Who knows?
I mean, like the cops. Look, at the end, the cop shows were beating TNA, and these are reruns that they've shown a million times, and they were beating TNA. They were cost them no money at all, and the ad rates were probably twice as high as TNA. So what's the? I mean, it's like I'm not saying that they won't do it, but I'm looking at it from a business standpoint, and it really makes no sense right now to do that unless you've got some affinity and some reason for it. I mean, if I'm them and I'm going to buy a wrestling show, I'd buy Ring of Honor, because the thing is, Ring of Honor can upgrade the production. All they need is money to upgrade it. Sinclair won't spend money, but if they get money for rights fees from somebody, they can upgrade the production. And, you know, they would be a better show. And you wouldn't have to deal with Dixie, which is a big deal. You wouldn't have to deal with all the insanity. I mean, I've had that in the Observer. There's a station that, and I don't think they would be interested in TNA, but they definitely had interest in wrestling. I know that's a fact, and one of the programmers there is, you know, a longtime subscriber, and you know, someone who I know fairly well. And when this whole thing was going down with TNA a couple months ago, I mean, he just said, like, you know, why would anyone want TNA? I mean, you're dealing with these, you know what I mean? It's like the way they handled everything, the way they handled the Spike thing, the way they handled the Destination America thing, just the way they've handled everything. Why would you want to be in business with these people? And this is actually a station that, quite frankly, TNA might have been able to go to. And, you know, they're not against wrestling. But they don't have a prayer on that station, I can tell you that. So TNA's, it's a very damaged brand. Still, I mean, anything can happen. When I just look at it from all the reasons that they were canceled by Spike, you know, I don't see it. It doesn't. I can't make economic sense out of bringing them back. If they could come in and do a million, 1.5 million viewers a week, and they would be confident of that, perhaps. But they can't. I don't even know. Like I said, they're at a point right now. They're doing whatever it is. Let's say 400,000 in combining two shows. They go on Spike. Maybe they get up to 800,000. Well, 800,000 is not a big number to Spike anymore. You know, at a time maybe it would have been. Right now, it's not that big of a deal.
October 30th.
Wait a second. Baymax.
Actually, wait a second.
Was a personal healthcare companion. You're saying that TNA has got themselves some sort of personal healthcare companion.
A personal companion?
That went Dusty Rhodes read the American Dream. Personal healthcare companion got dollars, gonna give the dollars to Dixie, gonna get them back on TV. We're gonna have Bound for Glory.
Well,
where are they gonna be? Is it gonna be in the Indians?
Okay, hold on, I screwed up. Bound for Glory, everybody, is October 4th in Concord, which looks like it's just about a week and a half away.
Like Concord, where? New Hampshire, Tennessee?
Concord, North Carolina, actually.
Oh, well, that actually makes sense then, yeah, with the Hardys, yeah.
But they do have a New Orleans show on October 30th. They're doing a hardcore Halloween tour, and they're going to film a one-night-only show. And Kurt Angle's working the show against Eric Young, it says here. Steel cage main event. Gail Kim and Awesome Kong, also in a steel cage. Wolves versus EC3 and Tyrus. Bobby Roode versus Matt Hardy. And the Monster Abyss versus Robbie E. Bound for Glory, we have matches. For those of you that have not been watching TNA, if you want to see this pay-per-view, this TNA Bound for Glory pay-per-view, their version of WrestleMania, a lineup here has EC3 versus Drew Galloway for the TNA World Heavyweight title, Tigre Uno defending the X Division title against a bunch of opponents, as of yet unnamed, Gail Kim versus Awesome Kong for the TNA Knockouts title. Yes, Gail Kim versus Awesome Kong in 2015 for the Knockouts title. Bobby Roode versus Lashley for the King of the Mountain Championship. And today, they added a TNA versus Global Force Wrestling match, even though last week on television, they did the TNA versus Global Force blow-off match, and TNA won. But I guess we're still doing matches. We've got Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards defending the TNA tag titles against Trevor Lee and Brian Myers. That will also be on Bound for Glory. So that pay-per-view is coming up in, God, it's about a week and a half, everybody. Can you imagine? Bound for Glory already in a week and a half. And I guess they're going to be getting ready to tape television It appears they're on Destination America through the end of the year, and some sources say February. Now, what they do after that is anybody's guess. I guess Destination America has given them plenty of time to try to get a new television outlet, and so we'll see where they end up. But they're going on here as planned. They're doing this one-night-only television taping, which they claim will air in early 2016. They're doing Bound for Glory. I guess they're going to tape TV and continue to do the occasional house show. So TNA still alive, everybody.
Well, you're right.
That is a positive. This may have been the final ever live TNA pay-per-view. They do have a one-night-only show that's coming up here at the end of the month, but as far as live pay-per-views, we may never see another one again. And this one ended with Matt Hardy standing tall. Matt Hardy is the new TNA World Heavyweight Champion. What a happy ending.
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess. It was not a good show. Let's not pretend. Let's not be nice. Let's not sugarcoat this.
I've seen better.
I've seen worse. I've seen a lot worse. I've seen worse lately. Well,
You know, Vinny, if you'd
Triple
actually...
H show was worse.
If you'd watched... That's true. If you'd watched the Madison Square Garden show, I think you would have found the show to be a little better. But let's not lie. The show wasn't very good. No. You know what's funny? It's TNA, and so these sorts of things only happen to me. At 3 o'clock, I went downstairs, and I ordered the pay-per-view in advance, like I always do, and I clicked the order button. I ordered the high-def version, partly because it's the same price as the SD version on my cable system. I don't know why. But I ordered the high-def version. I hit the purchase button. It said, "Thank you for your purchase." It gave me the option to record. I hit record. And, of course, at 5 o'clock, it didn't come on. So I tried to order it a second time, and it did the gimmick where you've already ordered, and so you can't order it a second time. So I'm down $34.95, and we can't watch the show. So I'm looking around. Is there any way that I can see this TNA pay-per-view? And it finally hits me, the Flips app. The Flips app, I can watch Bound for Glory. So I go and I get the Flips app on my phone, and I buy the show for another $34.95. Now, for those of you that have followed this show for a long time,
subscription rates will rise next month just to cover this.
I don't want to say it happens regularly, but this has happened before with TNA. And I was really thinking about this, and I came to the conclusion that I have ordered every single solitary TNA pay-per-view ever. From day one, there has never been a TNA pay-per-view that I didn't order. Maybe there was like one when I was out of town or something, but every single TNA pay-per-view that I have been home for, I ordered. Every time that TNA has come to this town, or Kent, I have gone and bought a ticket for the show. Not a comp, I bought a ticket. Every time they've come to town. And when you add in the fact that numerous times over the years, I have actually had to buy the show 2 times, I have concluded that I, Brian Alvarez, have spent more money on TNA than any other human being in the world outside of the Carter family. And I dare anybody to prove me wrong. Nobody! I could probably count on 2 hands the number of people in the world who have bought every single TNA pay-per-view.
And they should be
and I
taken
have
out.
bought it more than most because this has screwed up so many times. So for those of you that I think I hate this company, I just want you to know I have supported it more than you. Anyway.
For those of you who think I hate this company, I do, and I have never supported them. I did go to their shows. I go to the live shows, and I had fun at the live shows.
Yeah, live shows were good.
I never supported their TV product.
You've spent less than $200 on TNA in your whole lifetime.
And if I could get that $200 back, I would.
I've spent thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands. And before somebody goes on Twitter and says, Brian complains about spending money on TNA, not mentioning it's a tax write-off. Clearly you do not understand what a tax write-off is. It doesn't mean free money. I still paid for every single solitary one of them. Now, to be fair, many of them were worse than this one.
Yes. There was one. Oh, we'll get to it. But there was a historically bad TNA moment here. There was something every bit as bad as a barbed wire Christmas tree.
Someday, Vinny will go back and watch some of these old TNA shows.
Or a blindfold cage match where both men's blindfolds kept falling off.
Yeah.
Or a reverse battle royal.
Hey, I will say one positive thing. Flip Sap, not bad. We had one incident where it went down. And then we went back on and it worked fine for the rest of the show. High def. Sound was good. I mean, nobody was making any noise. But I could hear that it was a dead crowd. That's positive. I'm a positive man. I'm turning this show around. It's going to be all about positivity from now on. All right, go ahead.
Well, due to the difficulties Ryan described earlier, we missed almost all of the Ultimate X match. Literally, all we saw was Tigre Uno hit a 450 splash from the top rope to the floor. And then somebody named Andrew Everett was standing on the cables using the scaffolding for balance. And Tigre Uno returned and kicked him off. He took an enormous bump to the mat, and then Tigre Uno won.
I believe this was Andrew Everett's debut. He was trying to kill himself. He did a 630 splash. He did a shooting star press off the post, or over the springboard. It was some springboard shooting star to the floor or something.
How do you know all this?
They showed replays. Where were you?
Oh. I thought the match was over. I just thought it was done.
They showed a bunch of replays of the match that you didn't see earlier.
Anyway, so Tigre Uno wins. Pope, proudly, I say, states that he has been advertised for Ultimate X 4 or 5 times, managed to avoid appearing in all of them. And then
I wish he'd avoided appearing on commentary.
I'll get to the Pope. Shane Helms then came out in the brightest green jacket of all time. Fans chanted Hurricane. He had a stare down with Tigre Uno, who appeared to be mini Tigre Uno in there next to him. Shane Helms looked 14 feet tall. Tigre Uno looked 4 feet tall. Eventually they shook hands and Helms left, and that was it.
One more thing I got to mention here. There's no way that the production for this show was better than Ring of Honor. It's impossible. The last Ring of Honor show, the last Ring of Honor actual pay-per-view a week ago, the production was better than it was on this show.
EC3 came out for a promo.
Came out. Not backstage.
No.
He came out on the ramp for a promo.
Mm-hmm. Ranted about how unfair it was that Aunt Dixie was forcing him to defend against 2 men. And it also named Jeff Hardy a special ref. He said he would win anyway, and they were in Charlotte, so he made a Ric Flair reference and he left.
What he did was he said woo in the most half-hearted manner
exactly
possible.
As Brian, he did actually. There's a fine imitation of him saying woo, and then he literally dropped the mic.
I may have done a better job.
We had a Gauntlet match, which is TNA code for a Royal Rumble. Now, we have given up long since on watching the regular shows. But TNA news flies by my radar once in a while, and I could have sworn I'd heard that Christy Hamey had quit.
She may have.
Yeah, she was here. So, Mr. Kennedy comes out as the first person in the Royal Rumble, and he comes out on stage to do his mic entrance, and the mic won't drop. Because it wouldn't be TNA if there weren't multiple things going wrong on every show.
Yeah. Thankfully, Christy had a mic.
He gave up. He went and used Christy's mic to do his spiel. Jesse Goddard now calls himself The Man. He has a fancy robe and terrible music, and his gimmick is he comes out and nobody cares. Actually, that's not a new gimmick. So they got like 3 minutes in there. I kept wondering, is anyone going to come in? Is this going to be a one-on-one match to a finish, and then another guy will come in, or what?
I don't think they really explained this thing, but if I recall correctly, the first segment is long, and the next segments are shorter. But they appear to be completely random in terms of length.
It was totally random.
Yeah.
They went like 3 minutes, and a lot of it was based around handshake comedy. The third person in was Eli Drake, who has been on Impact before. I remember him, but he's so damn generic, you forgot him. And I'm not making fun of you for that.
Eli Drake, his gimmick is that he gets in the ring, and he starts pointing at 3 sides of the crowd while he chants, Eli Drake. He did this how many times? At least 3 times during the match.
Mm-hmm. And it's the start to his music.
He's got the most generic face.
Mm-hmm.
He could be any guy that you would see behind the counter at Subway, at a pizza place, at an auto repair center. He does have a body. He's got that going for him.
I described him as Rob Conway without the charisma and a lesser physique. So he came in. The next man in was the Thug, Aiden O'Shea.
No. Al Snow.
How did I miss Al Snow? I got Al and Eli confused. No,
Excuse me?
Eli came out, then Al. That's okay. This is what happened. Eli came out after the other two were in the ring forever. So Eli comes out, and then Al's on his heels like 20 seconds later.
Yes.
That's why I was talking about both men at once, and why I've gotten myself confused here. So it is 2015. Al Snow is still doing spots with Head.
Yeah. He's 52 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He has a better physique than at any point in his career.
When he was a full-time wrestler.
But he's very, very slow.
Yes. So the fifth man in was Aiden O'Shea, the Thug, Aiden O'Shea. And they said this is his TNA debut. And this man comes out. His name is Aiden O'Shea. He has Irish music playing. He's wearing a wife beater and suspenders and taping his fists and smoking a cigar. And Josh says, this man is a brawler. No shit.
He's a brawler. And he tapes his fists, so he's Jim Duggan.
Yes. So they got in the ring and started doing stuff. All I can think was, I am watching Eli Drake fight Aiden O'Shea, and it is on pay-per-view.
That we paid double for.
Yes. Sixth man was Robbie E. Al bonked Eli with Head, and Eli did the single fakest ever job of stumbling to the ropes and throwing himself out. Then we got the seventh man. This Indian fella. They did not have graphics.
Mahabali Shera.
I'm too lazy to look up his name. I wrote M. Shera. His last name is Shera.
Well, that's technically correct.
That's technically correct. I was not going to try to spell it, nor was going to look it up. So he gets to the ring, and he's punching everyone, and his music's still playing like he's the Indian New Jack. And then, after a while, he stops, and he folds his arms, and he does a wacky dance.
The Shera Shake.
Please tell me you made that up.
No, I'm not. I'm dead serious. Don't leave. I'm just telling you. Don't get mad at me.
I'm not mad.
There's even a hashtag.
I'm not even mad. I'm just...
Hashtag Shera Shake.
I'm just bewildered. I don't understand. You ever get really, really, really sick? Delirious. That's what I'm looking for. You actually don't know like where you are or which way is up. You know how Gilbert Hardy was acting at the end of the show?
Yes.
That's how I felt during the segment. I had no idea what was going on. All right, so he's in the ring, and one of the other dudes, we'll just say it was Mr. Anderson, he goes to throw a punch while Shera is doing the Shera Shake. And Shera stops the man, and he says, I'm doing my dance. You should dance with me. And Anderson says, all right. And he folds his arms, and he does the same little dance. And then a second man, we'll say it was Eli Drake, he goes to throw a punch, and Shera says, no, shake with me. And Eli says, cool. And he starts shaking too. And it leads to all, I believe there were 6 men in the ring at this point, and they're all standing there with their arms folded, bebopping back and forth.
Including Aiden O'Shea.
Aiden O'Shea, the
thug.
Thug.
Street fight thug brawler is doing the Shera Shake.
Yeah. And I looked at you and I said, Brian, turn it off.
You were going to leave the house.
I couldn't take any more. This was cringeworthy. I was ashamed of myself. I was ashamed for these men in the ring.
You're 39, almost 40. I shouldn't remind you of these things.
7 days. I'm done. My time on this earth is limited. I don't need to watch it. I don't need to spend my time that is left watching men do the Shera Shake. And you at least have the theory, maybe he's hypnotizing them.
That's my theory. I think he's hypnotizing
them.
Well,
we fine, except at one point, Aiden stopped dancing and just punched him.
Well, the spell doesn't last forever.
This is the moment. I've retweeted this. I would post on the board, but I can't get on anymore. So you're on your own.
You can write to support at WrestlingObserver.com. Tony will fix it.
I will email Tony at some point. I haven't been bothered yet. But the point is, this was so bad. This was so bad. And by the way, the winner of this gets a world championship. Or so we found out a championship match.
That's the key.
At any belt they wanted.
Yes, this was like a Money in the Bank match.
Yeah.
And these men decided that they were going to do the Shera Shake. You know what's even more offensive to me? Mahabali Shera is terrible. Yeah. He's a terrible wrestler.
Yeah.
It's one thing if it were like Daniel Bryan. Maybe he could get away with it.
Actually,
Mahabali Shera can't get away with it. His dance sucks. His wrestling sucks. Everything sucks. I presume that there's TNA fans right now that are so mad at us because we don't understand the greatness of the Shera Shake.
That can't be true.
I'll bet you anything.
There's no people like that.
You're going to see it on Twitter.
No one could have enjoyed this. That's not in the realm of possibility. That's not a world I want to live in. So there was more. Nothing that bad, but there was more. They kept wrestling. Tyrus came out, killed everyone. Chris Melendez came out, the one-legged war hero, and was dumped in 30 seconds by Tyrus, who also dumped Al Snow.
God bless Melendez, but he does a big boot spot with his prosthetic leg.
Mm-hmm.
You ever kicked anything?
You. But yes,
I guess that's true.
I have thrown a lot of big boots.
But you've thrown big boots in a fake wrestling match.
Yeah.
If you were really going to kick that door down,
mm-hmm.
you would bend your leg and thrust your leg through the door, correct?
Yeah.
You would not just lift your leg up and hope that
fall
the barn
forward.
door ran into you.
Yes.
That doesn't work. So Melendez's deal is he just swings his prosthetic leg up and people take bumps off of it.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Maybe you could do like a jumping spin wheel kick and hit him with the leg. That would be better.
A big metal bar hitting you in the face? That would, yeah.
Way better.
That's much better. You're right.
But the idea that he's lifting his leg up and dudes are running into it, it's ridiculous.
Well, that's all he's got. Maybe that's why he's only in there 30 seconds.
I'm sure he could do a jumping wheel kick.
So Tommy Dreamer, a man who used to eat hair on television, came out to the low point of his career being in this match.
Wearing polka dots
Mm-hmm.
is, I guess, a Dusty Rhodes tribute
Mm-hmm.
in the thing that Dusty wanted least remembered about himself when he passed away.
To be fair, a lot of people in NXT who knew Dusty a lot better than you and I did have also worn polka dots.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm merely pointing that out.
Yes. I would be more offended were I Dusty by the terrible Dusty Rhodes impression Tommy Dreamer did. Abyss was number 11.
Tommy Dreamer's jabs were worse than Rick Bogner's, which is a difficult level to attain.
Tommy Dreamer's never been very good. Abyss was number 11. He confronted Tyrus, who was actually taller than Abyss.
Were there really 11 men at this point?
Unless I miscounted, which is possible. I'm not going back to check. Pope declared himself to be number 12. His music played. He got in the ring. Abyss and Tyrus stared him down, and Pope eliminated himself. Another comedy spot here in this winner gets a championship match.
And this so died a death.
Mm-hmm. And here again I wrote, this was also on pay-per-view. They did Tower of Doom spots. The monsters brawled with each other, and finally Tyrus dumped Abyss. A bunch of eliminations happened all at once. Came down to Anderson, Jesse, and Tyrus. Then Anderson eliminated Jesse quickly, and so it was Anderson versus Tyrus in a one-on-one match with a ref. Anderson at least got the monster up for the Rolling Fireman Scary. I will concede that was cool. He had a senton, but Tyrus kicked out. And then Tyrus just squished him and won.
Yeah, he just fell on him and won.
They showed 1,000 replays of that X Division match. They did not show the replay of the finish here.
I'm pretty sure he just fell on him and won.
Yeah.
I don't think there was more to it than that.
So Ethan came out to congratulate Tyrus. He said, "You're my bodyguard, and now that you have earned a title match at any championship you want, you and I are going to be great tag team champions." And Tyrus said, "No, I'm not going to challenge for any of those titles. I'm going to challenge for the, where do you go? The Heavyweight World Championship of the World." And he said he still had Ethan's back, but Ethan was not happy. This match was, as I wrote, fucking terrible.
Yeah, this one was bad. I believe it was worse than Ed Viano's match. Everything about it sucked. And at the end of the day, when it was over, I thought, that was terrible. But at least when it was over, we've got a direction. Tyrus and EC3 are going to have issues leading to their eventual championship match.
One would think.
At the end of the day, EC3 lost the title. And first off, I don't know where this guy's going to get a championship match anyway. They have no shows. But if he gets a championship match, we will now be subjected to, prepare yourselves, Matt Hardy versus the man dinosaur, Tyrus, as they called him. Who could possibly care about that feud?
Well,
Who?
no one.
You?
No, fuck no. But who could care about anything in TNA?
At least there is a storyline with
right.
EC3 and Tyrus.
I will concede that is a storyline, though I will deny caring about it.
That's fine,
Okay.
but at least it's a storyline.
All right.
There's no storyline with Matt Hardy and Tyrus, and it's guaranteed to suck.
No, there is not, and yes, it is. The Wolves versus Brian Myers and Trevor Lee. Trevor Lee is the son of the guy who was the money mark in Omega, which was the Hardys' almost backyard fed.
That's crazy.
Did you ever watch the Matt Hardy in one of his sabbaticals from WWE did a documentary on Omega? It's the history of the company and all the guys who worked there. It was pretty crazy. There was one guy who he was not like he was absolutely wealthy, but he had some money to spend. And as long as Matt was there working his ass off to get sponsorship for the shows and they were breaking even, he was fine funding them. And they did shows for years. And they had stars like the Hardys, Joey Matthews was on those shows, and Hurricane was on those shows, and Shane Helms, Joey Abs, like guys who went on to be big names doing shows in garages in the Carolinas. And then Matt Hardy, the Hardys got signed. There was no Matt Hardy in Omega anymore. There was no one to do the legwork to keep the shows making money. The first show without him lost his ass, and he never ran a show again.
How about that?
Yes.
This Trevor Lee fella then would have been a very, very small infant.
Yeah.
When this first started. And now he's here wrestling on the show, pretending he's Daniel Bryan.
Is that the impression you got?
Kind of. Big beard.
He has a beard. He has long hair. He does a suplex.
And the uppercuts.
He did the uppercuts? All right. So, God bless the guy. He is 22. I didn't think it was terribly good. I thought his strikes mostly sucked. I thought... All right. Okay, yes, I'm a hypocrite.
No.
Oh.
What I'm going to... Well, that too, but... What I'm going to say is, we're sitting here talking about Eli Drake, right? Eli Drake had the most generic face you could possibly have. And what did I say about the guy? At least he's got a physique.
Yeah.
Okay. This guy, Trevor Lee, God bless him. But he's a totally generic-looking guy. Right?
Yes.
Daniel Bryan looks like he could be a fan. In some ways.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like he's superstar next to Eli Drake. So if you have that going against you, at least shave your chest and at least get a spray tan.
Were you saying that he looked like a superstar next to Trevor Lee?
He's so pale. He's got kind of chest hair running right down the middle.
Yeah.
It's a terrible look.
And he's not fat or even pudgy. He's just smooth. His offense is not very good. Davey tried him with a body press, and they tried to do like a flip bump off it, and somehow they both landed on their heads. And there's just a match, and, the Wolves are the Wolves, and Brian Myers was the other edge guy on Raw and SmackDown, so he knows what he's doing in there. And as long as he was in there, it was fine. And then Davey got a hot tag, and Lee was totally out of position. Like, the idea is you feed the guy making the comeback stands in the middle. The bad guys feed him. They take a punch or whatever. They take a bump and they roll out of the way. So Davey's trying to make his comeback, and the two heels are standing behind each other because Trevor Lee's coming from the opposite side of the ring on where he should be. So it all gets fucked up. There's a absolutely ridiculous spot where Davey throws Myers into Lee. And so Lee grabs Myers by the head. Davey then dropkicks Lee, which forces Lee to DDT his own partner. Stupid. Stupid and fake.
Didn't buy it?
No. Not one bit. So the fans loved it when the Wolves did a big double tope, a bunch of other moves. I will say Trevor Lee did a very cool slow motion German, which at least he did with a bridge, because the slow motion German looks cool, but it wouldn't hurt because you're going over slowly. And finally, the Wolves did something very close to chasing the dragon for the win. It was a decent enough little tag match.
Listen, I'm not trying to be mean to Trevor Lee. I'm trying to be a nice guy. I'm trying to be helpful here. He's a youngster. I'm twice his age. So, a little bit of advice here. If anybody's listening right now and they're saying, Brian, Trevor Lee is actually very talented. He doesn't work at all like Daniel Bryan. You've got to watch his matches. Listen to me. I don't know how long TNA is going to last. But if it goes under at 22 or 23 years old or whatever, he will have a chance to maybe be signed by WWE for developmental. But when he goes there, there won't be anybody there who's watched any of his old matches. All they're going to do is see that he's got long hair, and he's got a beard, and he does European uppercuts, and they're going to think, this guy is just like Daniel Bryan, who we already have, and he's smooth, and he doesn't have a great body, and he's pale, and he's hairy. Dude needs a total makeover. That's all I'm saying. As a friendly piece of advice. What's happening over there?
Is that my computer?
Sounded like it.
I've muted it. Sorry. Jeremy Borash interviewed Drew Galloway. See, he said he'd come to this company a year ago to compete with the best and to show the real Drew Galloway. He said he had led Team TNA to victory in their feud over the other guys, Team GFW, and he had done it as the company's champion. EC3 had stood on the sideline like a bitch. He said this was a triple threat now, which meant it was no DQ, and he was willing to kill himself.
Kill himself? What was that all about? What a dumb line.
It wasn't even kill myself to win the title. It was just, I'm willing to kill myself. And he left.
And then, in the main event, to cut to the chase, he didn't kill himself.
No.
Nor did he win.
No. Bobby Roode versus Lashley for the King of the Mountain Championship. As noted, we have not watched the show in a while. But last time we saw this, Jeff Jarrett won this belt in a King of the Mountain match.
Yeah.
So I assumed it would be defended in King of the Mountain matches.
Well, Vinny, you assumed wrong.
It's just another title.
It's just called the King of the Mountain title.
How do you steel cage title?
I don't know what that means.
Defended in one-on-one singles matches with no cage. Lashley had a weird look. He's out there in gold trunks, one red forearm sleeve, and a black headband.
A headband.
Like a cheerleader.
Yeah. I wear a headband, but it's because my hair is long.
Lashley's bald. Yes. Far be it from me to give Bobby Lashley fashion advice, but someone could have. The pre-match stare down was the best thing on the show to this point, as it was the first time I really felt like anything on the show mattered even a little bit. Then they had a match. They did a series of stalemate spots to establish that they were on the same level. Fans chanted Bobby in support of both guys. Lashley had a bunch of suplexes. Pope's talking about his...
You know what that means when there's two Bobbies and the fans chant Bobby?
One Bobby too many?
It means they're entertaining themselves because the match is not entertaining them. I didn't think there was anything wrong with this match, but I was absolutely dead bored until about the last 3 minutes when it really picked up. They just did a bunch of moves.
There was no good guy. There was no bad guy. There was no one for the fans to cheer for. It was two men doing moves. Pope's talking about Lashley's MMA background as he uses hammerlocks, as if no wrestler in pro wrestling has ever used a hammerlock before. I did have to leave for a few minutes to move my car. And then
you missed absolutely nothing.
When I came back, the show shut down. Maybe it helped, because this seemed not great, but better than you describe it.
It wasn't bad. I was just bored.
I got bored.
They were two very competent, technically proficient wrestlers having a solid wrestling match on a show with the Shera Shuffle, which
automatically makes it a better match.
Injured my brain.
That is a good point, actually. I didn't even think about this. I probably would have hated this a lot more in any other random wrestling show, but I had just seen the Shera Shuffle. I had just seen the Wolves do 1,000 moves in one match, including the stupid dropkick that makes your partner DDTU spot. It was automatically made that worse than this, just that one spot. So I'll probably like this a lot more in the context of the other crap on the show.
Sure.
All right. So eventually, I moved my car, and then I came back, and that's when we had our brief technical issues. We had to restart it. And when we came back, they were hitting each other with the other man's finish. They traded finishes a few times, and at last, Roode threw a clothesline. Lashley blocked it and tried some kind of arm lock, but as he was trying the arm lock, Roode hooked him up into a Roode bomb for the win. They had a handshake of manliness afterwards.
It's a really weird thing they were doing. It was called a Kimura, and I guess it was, but he was applying it from the back and not from the front. So it looked to me like it wouldn't hurt. And Bobby Roode should just be able to get out, but he didn't.
Maybe it was an Indian burn.
And they used it the whole match, and they kept calling it the Kimura. It's just very weird.
Borash interviewed Matt Hardy backstage.
I got to talk about this. It makes more sense now that Matt Hardy has won the title. Matt Hardy's been in this business for how long? 20 years? 15 years?
At least 20 years, yeah.
A long, long time. It's TNA. Nobody's there. Nobody's watching on pay-per-view. Nobody talks about TNA. I've not had one caller ask about TNA in as long as I can remember on Observer Live. It is so far under the radar. But Matt Hardy has never won a world title. And tonight, 100 miles from his home, with his family, his dad, Gilbert, and his wife, and his newborn child, Matanza, whatever he called him, tonight is Matt's chance. His brother Jeff has won the world title a few times. Matt has never been a world champion in his career. And you know what? Even though it's TNA, even though it's Bound for Glory, even though the promotion is on death's door, this still meant the world to him. And my God, the passionate promo that this man cut about how he was going to become the champion of the world tonight in front of his friends and family in his hometown. He's going crazy. He's sweating. He's shaking his fists. This was a great promo.
This was a fabulous promo.
This man believed.
Yeah.
This belt meant something. This is the only man in the world this belt means anything to.
Yes.
I don't think it means a damn thing to EC3.
No.
I don't think it means a damn thing to anybody, but you know what? It means a damn thing to Matt Hardy. This was a great promo.
It was amazing. And yes, this, by the end, you believe this was important to him. This, at least on this show, in front of these people, his family, his brother was going to be there, it was all going to be perfect, and he was winning that goddamn world title.
And he did! And they gave us a happy ending.
They did.
It's actually amazing the more I think about it.
They showed Earl Hebner going into the Hall of Fame on a random house show the night before. Then Billy Corgan came out to the ring to a reaction that was neither unanimous nor passionate. It was like John Cena with a volume of 1.
And of all the people to stumble over their own words, Billy Corgan.
Billy Corgan, who probably has more mic time than anyone else in the company. He introduced an Earl Hebner highlight reel. I'm not making that up.
No. Now keep in mind, all of the greatest moments of Earl's career are outside of TNA, and they couldn't show any footage of it.
There was one still shot of him raising Shawn Michaels' hand. I don't know where it came from, but they had that. And they had a bunch of wrestlers who clearly never saw Tommy Young say Earl was the best ref ever.
Well, listen, Vinny.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that some people would argue that maybe in a lot of ways Tommy Young was better, but Earl Hebner is the most famous and probably the greatest referee of all time. Maybe Tarantes, maybe some of the New Japan, All Japan referees. It's probably going to end up being Earl Hebner. You could make a strong argument he is the greatest referee of all time.
This is also on pay-per-view, by the way, this Earl Hebner highlight reel.
Yeah.
And that was it. He came out to ref the match after that. His big Hall of Fame ceremony was good. Get to work.
Well, you know, it was a nice video package.
Gail,
and he is a great referee. And his son had some really, really nice things to say about his dad. I like this whole thing.
a lot of guys did.
Yeah.
Everyone likes him.
My wife loves him. My wife loves Earl Hebner so much that when I dragged her once to a TNA show, she made me get her an Earl Hebner shirt, and she went and had Earl sign it.
Wow.
And then he flirted with her.
Really?
Yeah. What do you expect? It's Earl.
I'd expect that.
That's his gimmick.
Gimmick? That's
not
a shoot.
gimmick. Yeah. Shouldn't use that word.
Gail Kim versus Awesome Kong. Awesome Kong can't move.
You know what? They used to always say that Ric Flair could have a good match with a broomstick. Okay. It may have been true, but everyone that he wrestled could move.
Mm-hmm.
Kong cannot move. And Gail got... Now, don't get me wrong. This match was pretty bad. However, Gail got...
It was above average on this show.
The best match a human could possibly get out of someone who is completely immobile.
Gail was working so hard to have a good match. She
should go in the Hall of Fame for this.
She should. This was it was not a great match, but it was a great performance by Gail.
It was a one-person performance.
Yes.
That term is used a lot, but this was and you know what? To be fair, Kong can't do anything physical, but she's still great at being Kong. So she does deserve credit. She was a very charismatic mountain.
You're not wrong. She has great presence and great facials. That's true. So, Gail's been married at least a year to Chef Robert Irvine, actually a much larger TV star.
Jericho's dad.
No, it's Ted.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
That'd be funny, though. But
what a tie-in.
Yeah. So they actually showed him in the crowd
Gail
here.
would be Jericho's mom.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
What an angle that would be.
Be a hell of an angle.
So, point is, he was in the crowd. Robert Irvine, not Chris Jericho. They never show him in the crowd. I don't know how often he goes to these shows, but he was there this time. And
He's there a fair amount. I've seen him.
Okay. Well, it did play into the match, which I think is the first time. So the story was Kong would stand there and not move, and Gail would hit her a bunch of times, and Kong would no-sell it, and then Gail would hit the ropes and hit Kong and bounce off and fall down. This went on many times. Kong a few times tried to climb the ropes, and I guess technically she succeeded, but this looked painful to watch.
Oh.
So
I first noticed when she threw Gail outside, and all she had to do was walk around ringside to find a chair.
Mm-hmm.
Her back is shot.
Yeah.
I've had a bad back. She was walking like someone whose back is completely shot.
When she was trying to climb the middle ropes, and Lord knows I was never the best athlete, but I was able to stand with my back to the corner, grab the top rope, jump up, and land in a seated position on the top rope. Kong had to stand in the corner, arch her back, put one foot on the bottom rope, then the other, arch her back more, one foot on the middle rope, then the other, then stand up, then sit down. This was sad.
It was sad, but there was a spot where Gail's going for a Hurricane Rana.
Yes.
And Kong,
that's
the
the spot I'm
mountain,
talking about, yes.
just holds on, and Gail takes this big bump, and Kong did the most beautiful, giant, big splash, smashing her.
Yes.
She can't do anything, but she can do a big splash.
That's right. So Gail kicked out of that. This frustrated Kong, so she threw Gail outside, and here was a spot where she had to go find a chair. And eventually she did. And Robert Irvine said, "Fuck you, that's my wife," and he tried to take the chair away. And the ref, Earl...
Has he never watched wrestling?
Apparently, because I believe he might not have, actually. But Earl then got in a shouting match with Robert Irvine. This shouting match was awesome. This was believable.
Yeah.
These men were pissed at each other. But this also distracted the ref, and it gave Kong a chance to hit an implant buster on the floor, onto chairs on the floor.
Luckily for Gail, she has no implants.
She did. Did she get him out?
She did?
At one point she did.
Wow.
Yeah, they're not the cartoonish implants that other women get, but she had implants. So.
Who would bother?
I don't know what to tell you.
Get big ones if you're going to
If
get
you're
them.
going to get them, go all the way.
Yeah.
So this hitting this move and then tossing Gail into the ring took Kong a long while, and thus Gail had a chance to recover. They started teasing and countering big moves until Kong dropped Gail with a back fist. Gail's selling of this was awesome. And then Kong painfully, slowly climbed the ropes again, and Gail went up there with her and had a super eat defeat for the win. Gail worked harder than almost anyone else in the show, and I will say it was a good match. Not a great match. It was a good match.
It was very good for what it was. And it was an eat defeat followed by a really large package for the pin.
Yes. Borash interviewed Jeff Hardy.
You've not been watching the show, so you don't know the storyline here.
Something about Jeff was Ethan's personal assistant.
Jeff broke his leg on his dirt bike.
I remember that.
And he came back, and Matt had a couple of matches with EC3. And he loses the first one. And then the second one, the stipulation was if Matt didn't win, this was how he was going to get the match, Jeff would be forced to be EC3's personal assistant. Matt fails. Jeff has to be EC3's slave for a period of time. Eventually, Jeff can take no more and he quits, and then Dixie very quickly signs him to be the special guest referee. Point of this is, as they're doing this promo, it occurred to me, clearly Jeff is going to screw his brother.
Yes.
Number one, because believe it or not, it would actually make sense in storyline. He's mad at his idiot brother. It's his fault that he has had to be a slave for all this time. And number two, it's TNA. They never learn from anything. They have not learned from the fact that every time they've done a Jeff-Matt feud, it's died.
And everyone hates heel Jeff Hardy.
Yes. So this is why I concluded that that's what they were going to do. And amazingly, they didn't do it.
No. All he got out of this promo was that he hates Ethan and he was happy to be back. Kurt Angle versus Eric Young in a no DQ match.
Let me be a fair man before you get going, because I can see you're building up out of steam.
There's bile in me, man.
All right, first off, it was a good story.
No, it wasn't.
Kurt Angle's coming back from neck surgery, and Eric Young hits him with the pile driver, and Kurt Angle's neck is all screwed up. Nobody wants him to continue, but he fights valiantly, and he wins, okay? On paper, the way I just described it, that's a good story. However, they screwed everything up. From the very beginning, when Christy Hemme announces it is a no disqualifications match. That's what she says as the men are coming down to the ring. She announces it's a no disqualifications match. So they come down to the ring, and Eric does a promo saying that he's going to retire this man. And Kurt says, oh, wait. Not only am I not going to walk away and retire, but I have talked to Dixie, and she has agreed to make this a no disqualification match. And I'm like, nobody could have told Christy Hemme. So they do the pile driver. Would you like to talk about the pile driver, Vinny? The pile driver spot?
Well, the pile driver itself was great. We've mentioned this. We'd love to have a match with Eric Young.
Sure.
That would be awesome.
Or Kurt.
Of the two, honestly, I think I'd rather have Eric.
Yeah, he'd hurt you less.
Yes.
Maybe not hurt you, but you'd take less
I would take a
suplexes.
beating from Kurt.
Yeah.
Eric, I would feel nothing, including the pile driver. So they're doing the match, and up to this point, from the moment the bell had rang, they did everything correct. Kurt's beating him up and doing fine. And then Eric hits one pile driver. And I thought, okay, they're going to overdo this. He's going to do like 8 pile drivers, and Kurt's going to no-sell it. No. Eric hits the pile driver. Kurt rolls outside. He grabs his neck and shoulder. He's kicking his feet in agony. And the ref is holding Eric back as officials and doctors to come to check on Kurt. And one doctor looks at Kurt, and he waves his hands off. The match is over.
That's right.
He can't continue.
He can't continue. He waves it off to the referee.
Mm-hmm. The referee then says, well, nothing. He just held Eric back. So, let's review this. A man with a neck injury has been dropped onto his neck. A doctor has examined him to determine him unfit to wrestle.
Yes.
Right? This all happened. So
the doctor stopped the match.
Mm-hmm.
Verbally, he said this match is over.
He ordered this match is done. So they start to carry Kurt to the back, and Eric starts beating up everyone helping him. He beats up Pat Kenny. He beats up the doctor, in fact. He beats up whoever else was there. He chases the medics to the back. He drags Angle down to the ring. He's working on the neck. He's cranking his neck in the ropes. The announcers are saying this is no longer a match. This is an assault. And the ref just stands there. Just looks on. Whatever. And they start fighting on the floor. And the fans are so into this. They're so concerned for the health and safety of Kurt Angle that there's a guy dressed as Captain America holding up a shield, and they were all chanting, use the shield, use the shield.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Eric pulls back the pretty black mass to try a pile driver on the floor, and Kurt springs free with a...
Yes, listeners, the match is still going on.
After the doctor stopped it. And the ref's like counting pins and stuff.
Yeah.
So Kurt breaks free, hits a German suplex on the floor onto the pretty black mats. Now let's talk about Pope. We ended about this earlier. There's some things I like about Pope as an announcer. There's some things I don't. And the thing I don't like most is that he'll get a joke in his head that's funny to him. And it'd be fine if you made a joke and it was unfunny, you let it go. But he'll repeat the joke over and over and over again. So whenever someone would hit a suplex, he would call it a soufflé.
Yes.
A parody of the way Gordon Solie used to say soufflé.
Yes, a soufflé.
You call it soufflé, the baked dish. So the fans start treating this all as total comedy. And why wouldn't they? Because the doctor is treating it as total comedy. The promotion is treating it as total comedy. The announcer is treating it as total comedy. As this man fighting for his life hits a soufflé on the floor.
It's not even that they treated it as comedy. It was so ridiculous. It was so impossible. It was literally impossible to suspend your disbelief in any way. And then on top of that, Pope is making soufflé jokes as this man with an alleged broken neck is struggling for his life.
Yeah. Pope called this an embarrassment to Impact Wrestling. Clearly, he did not watch that dance party earlier. Eric Angle gets in the ring. Eric hits him with a chair shot to the head. And by the way, watching this did nothing to make me change my opinion to have a match with Eric Young. I'd be fine. So no security, no cops. The announcers can't do anything.
Yeah, where was Pope, who left the announce booth to enter a battle royal earlier? If he's so appalled at what's going on in the ring and Kurt Angle's life being in danger, why didn't he jump out of the booth and go help?
Where's everyone else in the show? Where are the Wolves? Where's Tigre Uno? Where's Hurricane, who had nothing else to do?
That's right.
No one gave a shit.
It sucked.
So, Young, after the soufflé on the floor, he starts going off. It's back in the ring like a minute later. And Pope has to cover for him. Well, you see, he landed on this match. He's not hurt very bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kurt makes another comeback, and Josh says, good for Kurt. I thought, no, it isn't. He's doing more suplexes with the bad neck. If this is true, he's damaging his own neck in front of us right now. This is terrible news for Kurt. Young then begins to work over the shoulder, because why not? He hits a top rope elbow, and the fans chant, one more time! Because Kurt's head is still attached to his body, and that disappoints them. So the beating continues. As noted, the ref was counting pins even after the doctor threw the match out. And Pope says, and this is virtually a quote, I tell you, if there was a doctor here, he'd be throwing in the towel. There was! And he did! And the match is still going on. So finally, Young teases a super pile driver off the ropes, and Kurt escapes and hooks an ankle lock. Young gets the ropes, but it's no DQ. Then Angle dragged him back to the center of the ring anyway, and Eric tapped out. Then Angle goes up and celebrates on the ramp like his neck is totally fine.
Dude, it's not even that. Everything about this match drove me nuts, and then at the very end, after Kurt Angle wins, he turns and he looks at the crowd. I swear on a stack of Bibles, he shakes out his left arm, and he's back to normal. And he waves both hands in the air, he looks around, he celebrates, he goes up the ramp, and he's no longer selling his neck at all. Now, keep in mind, this was not a situation where Kurt Angle disagreed with the doctor.
No.
Kurt Angle actually told Eric Young, Eric, it's over. Kurt Angle verbally submitted. Yes. The doctor stopped the match.
Yeah.
The referee just let it go on. Don't give me this stuff about it's no DQ, the ref can't stop the match. Angle submitted. Angle submitted by saying, Eric, it's over. This was appalling. And that leads us to the main event.
I went way too easy on that match. It was really terrible.
That was TNA in a nutshell, that match right there.
There was more TNA to come.
Really? It's just the main event.
No, you're forgetting the video package where the sound kept cutting in and out.
Oh, yeah.
And Josh had to apologize to us for the technical difficulties.
Yes.
It wouldn't be a TNA show if everything possible didn't go wrong. Matt Hardy versus Drew Galloway versus Ethan Carter III with Jeff Hardy as special ref. The intros took forever, and ordinarily for a World Championship match, I would not have a problem with that, but this was a bad show, and I was having great difficulty staying awake. I had to lay down. So, the very first thing that happened, the bell rings, and Matt claims that Tyrus had tripped him when Tyrus had done no such thing. The fans are backing up Matt. Jeff is not sure who to believe, but he eventually throws Tyrus out. And Tyrus' response is to shrug and laugh.
Well, who cares? He's getting a title shot anyway.
And again, you would think this would lead somewhere, but now it won't.
Nope. They had a three-way.
Ethan used something like a DDT where he threw Drew onto his back, and if that makes no sense to you, that's because the move makes no sense. There's a chin lock like 4 minutes in, because I guess Matt got blown up and there's nobody to cover for him. Drew tried to dive, nobody caught him. Then Drew hit white noise to Ethan on the stairs. I bet that sucked. And then this became every TNA main event when they did a ref bump. And ordinarily, I might laugh it off.
Well, here's why I thought you flipped out about this ref bump. Mm-hmm. Because, as I noted, they were very clearly trying to make you think that Jeff was going to screw his brother. And Matt was shoved off into Jeff as a way to tease that further. Oh my God, Matt ran into Jeff. Jeff doesn't know what happened. Jeff is going to think that Matt just hit him. It was more of their swerve to lead you in a direction they weren't going. And he got right back up anyway. Who cares?
He missed his brother Matt getting a pin. I was just pissed off because the whole point of a special ref is you don't have to do bullshit like ref bumps. They could have just left Earl out there if you want to do a ref bump spot. Who the fuck cares?
Of all the things on this show, this was low on the list.
I get very mad here.
The Shera Shake.
That was worse. This was like the straw that broke the camel's back.
I see.
I will admit, I may be overreacting to it in a vacuum.
Yes,
but
you are.
In context with the rest of this horrible show, in the context with the last decade and a half of this horrible company, I am still...
So anyway, EC3...
I get so angry that there's money going into young Maxwell's college fund from TNA. That pisses me off.
Wow.
No one should benefit from TNA.
Poor Maxwell. He's so little.
It's his fault for having a dad who works there.
Wow.
I hate it. I hate this company.
He's 0. He's 0 years old.
He's days old, apparently. They got him in the ring afterwards. He's a tiny, tiny little human being.
Let's cut to the chase here.
So Ethan hit his move, and both guys kicked out. And Ethan was trying to get himself disqualified. So he shoved Jeff, and Jeff wouldn't DQ him. And he punted Drew right in the balls, and Jeff wouldn't DQ him. And Ethan grabs a chair, and Jeff takes it away, and nobody cares about any of this. And Ethan orders Jeff to finish it like a man, and he points at Matt. And as you noted, the whole storyline is they're trying to fool the fans. Gotta be a swerve. They'll think it's going to be a swerve, so we'll swerve them by teasing a swerve, and then not do a swerve.
Yeah.
Fuck this company.
So then what happened?
There was no swerve. Eventually, Ethan got madder and madder. He slapped Jeff, and so Jeff hit him with a twist of fate. And Drew booted him out of the ring. And then Matt hit Drew with a twist of fate and won the match and the title. And they brought in Matt's incredibly small human being.
Tiny. This baby must have been born yesterday.
This
baby was so tiny.
Small.
And then Grandpa.
And by the way, terrified.
Oh, yeah. This baby did not want to be in the ring.
No. His lovely wife and his brother. And then Papa Hardy came in.
Gilbert
Hardy. Man had no idea what on earth was going on.
God bless Gilbert.
Didn't know what a wrestling ring was. No idea what a strange mechanical device.
He knew a little bit because he was doing Jeff Hardy's goofy hand.
They had to show him how to do it.
Yeah.
And Dad came up with this contraption. Hold your hand up like this. And I don't think he knew who these two nice young men were, but they were nice to him, so he did that. No clue what was going on, what the primate was in this lovely young woman's shoulder. Nothing. He had no clue where he was. Ethan goes backstage, has a screams at Aunt Dixie, and he leaves. And that was it. That was a lousy match to end a lousy show, the latest in a long history of a lousy company.
Well, there you go, everybody. Vinny's final TNA pay-per-view review, it looks like. Unless they end up doing Genesis.
I'm sure they'll come back. They're like...
this may be it for real.
I mean, every once in a while, the plague pops up again.
That's true. So TNA was scheduled to have this Halloween tour, and they announced today that it was canceled.
They announced a couple days ago.
What's happening here?
They just contacted all the guys and said the tour was off.
But what's the story?
They didn't sell any tickets. This is like all the other stuff.
You don't say.
They're not selling tickets anywhere. So no. I mean, I saw that they put out something about logistical or something. And it's just like, I mean, I know that they had no tickets sold. So, what are you going to do? I mean, if you had tickets sold, you'd do the show. It's 4 shows within a close approximation of each other. I'm not exactly, you know what I mean? It's like if one show was like in Montreal and one show was in Shreveport and they couldn't get to Shreveport on time, I was like, okay, there's a logistical problem. When your shows were in Thibodaux, New Orleans, Biloxi, and I forget the first, Baton Rouge, I believe is the 4th city. What's the logistical issue?
I was very skeptical of the whole idea that, ticket sales are fine, but the logistics of causes. If ticket sales are fine, run, right?
Yeah. Well, of course, ticket sales aren't fine. They can't sell tickets. The brand is, just so knee deep in crap that, it's too bad. I mean, I don't know what to say. I watch the TV. So here's the deal with the TV. Did you watch TV Wednesday?
I have not seen the TV yet, but I've seen some clips from the TV.
Okay. Well, the thing with the TV, okay. Now, there's no doubt that when they did all those tapings, that they very meticulously worked out a tournament. Whether it was for the world title or whether it was going to be for the one-night-only pay-per-views, I don't know. I know that they don't have any stuff for one-night-only pay-per-views past the end of this year, and usually they're way ahead on that. And in fact, the New Orleans was supposed to be one of the tapes for the one-night-only pay-per-view. So they lost another month by canceling New Orleans. And it's not like they've got another round of house shows where they can make up for it because that's the last house shows they got on the schedule period. They got the India tour, which still hasn't been announced, but will be announced probably next week. And they've got the UK tour, and that's the end of January, and then that's everything. And, whether they're going to, what they're going to do from there, who the hell knows what they're doing. But the thing is they clearly had meticulously worked out this tournament. Now, what they didn't do is when they actually did the tournament and they filmed all the interviews around the tournament, the guys were not okay. So you either got one of two things. Okay, they decided that either this idea that this was all planned is bullshit. Okay, which is possible. I'll say it's possible.
I don't overrule it because of the idea that James Storm is in the tournament.
Well, James Storm and Kenny King and Aries and Bram, are all going to be on TV the next 2 months, and they're all long gone.
So why would he be written out of storylines on television if he's going to be in this tournament that was meticulously planned?
It's TNA. I don't really have an answer. The thing is, but here's the thing. All of the interviews there were a couple of interviews on the show that were done last week at Bound for Glory. They had EC3 and Matt Hardy, and they were talking about the legal injunction and the world championship match and blah blah blah. So there were a couple that had to do with storyline, but almost every interview on that show was done in July at the conjunction with this tournament. Now, in every interview that ran, and they had these sit down interviews. With the guys talking about the match that was going on, kind of inset interviews. Not one mentioned anything about a world title. Not one mentioned anything about a tournament. They were just like, Drew Galloway going like, people want to see, Bram's a tough guy and it's going to be a big fight. And they did very generic promos, which you wouldn't do for a world championship tournament. And no, there's no mention of anything like that. So if they were doing it, they didn't tell the participants because the interviews have nothing to do with it. Okay, I can almost see in their
maybe they were confused that if they made that clear, it would be a spoiler.
What do you mean?
Word would get out that they were doing a world title tournament.
Okay. Right, I was going to go there. Okay, so here's the thing. Okay, so you got two ideas here. Number one, they had this. They didn't tell the boys. So they taped all these interviews to fool everyone, okay? I can get that. There's only one thing. If that's the case, why are these interviews airing?
I don't know.
That's the problem. I mean, I'm watching this.
No good explanation for any of this.
It's like this is a world title tournament, and all these guys are doing interviews, and they never talk about I want to win the world title, tournament, nothing. I mean, they do talk about who's the toughest guy in their block. So the block thing, they all knew their block thing. But it's nothing about the world championship or anything like that. Now, Kong did talk about in her interview that, she's ready to face guys, but that was all, but she was, her facing guys was already taped. So she knew that they were doing that week. So they all knew they were doing a tournament, but not for the championship. But why would you then air the interviews where nobody talks about the championship when these are all big championship tournament matches? I mean, it's like I get the taping of it. I don't get the airing of it. And when I'm watching the show, it's like hitting you like, why did none of these people care about the championship? Why don't they even talk about the championship? I mean, I know why, but I'm just thinking if I'm a viewer and I'm watching these interviews, it's like, wouldn't they be talking about this, this? And then the other thing, too, there was a match with Grado and Spud.
Oh, I heard about this match.
Yeah, you almost got to see it. I mean, it's not like, it's like if you did this match at a house show and they're both comedy guys, it is what it is. It's real low rent indie stuff. All they do is do everybody, Rock Bottom and Stone Cold Stunner and, Undertaker choke slam. Spud does the Undertaker choke slam and the folding rest in peace pin and, Grado does the Kurt Angle ankle lock pulling down his straps and he does the stinger or Spud does the stinger splash in the corner. And, it's just a collection. That's the whole match is a collection of legendary spots of old wrestlers. And it is what it is. Josh Matthews is just burying the thing. And
that's nice.
The Pope like makes a remark about how, these guys can go all night. And then Josh reminds him, it's like, well, thank God it's only a 15-minute time limit. And then when it's over, it was basically like, well, we're glad this one's over. And I mean, he's like just burying the match, which is okay. The match sucked, but it's like this is supposed to be a world championship tournament. And essentially, this is feeling like that. Remember that tournament that Russo booked when he
It
first
was
came
almost
in?
exactly like this. It was also 32 men and women.
Yeah, throwing in the women.
Yeah, we had women in there. We had women eliminated and put back in.
Well, we don't have that here.
Yet.
Yeah.
It's not over yet.
Yeah, well, no, but this is a lot more meticulously planned than the Russo one. And also in the Russo one, every single match ended with a run-in. Like, it was like 31 matches with 30 run-ins or something.
It would be very difficult to top that tournament as far as worst tournaments ever in wrestling history.
Yeah, this most of them, already they had an EC3 match with Austin Aries, which is, was a pretty good match. And Lashley and Ken Anderson was all right. Bram and Drew Galloway was good. I mean, they had good matches on the show. I mean, the Grado match was the only stinker. Although Gail Kim and Brooke was okay. I mean, it started out bad. It was okay by the finish, but yeah, I mean, that aspect of now. This is the other thing to watch on this is the rating was way up for both TNA and Ring of Honor this week, especially after how bad it had been the previous weeks. Now, you can't judge anything by 1 week ratings, obviously, but it's going to be very interesting because this show and all these shows, they don't have the long interviews. They don't have the storylines. It's just a bunch of matches and a leaderboard and commentary. And they moved out of the closet and now they're in a much nicer looking set. Thank God. It actually looks like they're in like a, they had a
Now
nice
they've
backdrop.
moved to a better set?
Yeah, it's like absolutely nice. I mean, it looks like an Anchorman desk as opposed to like sticking them in a closet to do the broadcasting. So what's going to be interesting is if the rating stays up, that pretty much tells you that all of that stuff with the long interviews and the storyline and everything that everyone does TV, that maybe that's not necessary. I can't say anything now. I mean, we've got to wait a month and see if the numbers, if the numbers plummet, then it tells you something.
Yeah, but you know what? Let me ask you this question about these numbers real quick.
Yeah.
These numbers have been fluctuating wildly. Is there anything? Is there some sort of is there anything that we can attribute? They're just weird. Like some weeks it's like, oh, this is the second highest rating in the history of the show. Oh, this week it's randomly the third lowest rating. They go up and down. I am not one of those people. We get these emails all the time. Oh, the rating sample is so low. How do you believe these ratings? I'm not one of those crazy people.
Okay,
but
okay. When it comes to ratings, okay, when you have a show that does under 100,000 viewers, at that point, the variations.
This could be one guy.
Not one guy. It's not one guy, but it's when you're under 100,000. You don't take it as a gospel. Once you're over 100,000, it's pretty darn accurate.
Okay, so when we're going from 69,000 to 150,000, I mean, that's
a real difference. Now, if it's 69,000 to 100,000, it's probably not like that significant. But if it's like, if TNA goes from 270 to 350, yeah, or 350 to 270, yeah, those are real variations. They're close. The sample and everything, it's close enough.
It's just weird to me because the Raw ratings and the SmackDown ratings are very consistently bad lately. But the Destination America numbers are randomly bad and then very good.
Well, but here's the thing. It's because they're so low that the difference in 80,000 viewers on a Raw or a SmackDown, you barely notice. The difference in 80,000 viewers on a Destination America,
I guess that's true, yeah, is like it's a big it's like there's not that many fans, so there can be a big variation based on basically what else is on television. Sure.
You don't have that. I mean, none of these shows, the Ring of Honor and the TNA, it's not like before on Spike where TNA had but TNA, even on Spike, they did vary 80,000 viewers a week, many weeks. That wasn't an unusual variation. It's so it just depends on what's on TV, and it's not, the viewers of these shows are not living and dying with these shows. It's very clear that they'll watch. It's like
they'll watch if nothing else is on.
They'll watch if nothing else is on. They'll watch if they're home. If they're not home, they won't watch. It's not like like Raw, where you really have this base of audience that's going to watch, unless it's a a bad holiday, it's going to watch kind of no matter what. Even during football season, you're going to have your a lot of them will stay during football season. Obviously, you're going to lose a lot. You'll lose some during football season as well. But it's but they don't have neither has that loyal of an audience that sees these shows as can't miss, and the shows aren't can't miss. Number one, just the fact that they're old, although that doesn't really seem to make that much of a difference, because even when they were live on Destination America, they weren't doing much different. But just the idea that it's just not, it doesn't, nothing in TNA and Ring of Honor television. Ring of Honor, it's like the big thing on Ring of Honor is still the big shows. It's not the television show. It's almost booked like old school wrestling. Whereas TNA, everything's booked for television, but no one cares about it. So it's not like people go, I can't miss this show. This week, for whatever reason, maybe it was all those videos they put up and they changed the title and all that. Maybe people are just kind of curious of like how they're going to get out of this mess. What we're going to find out next week is if it goes back down, then this week obviously meant nothing. But if it stays up and they didn't, and it stays up without doing all those interview segments, maybe it's telling people that the way they structure their TV was not the optimum way to do it.
Well, I think I think that a lot of the things they did were things that they did because Raw did it. And I think that outside of Raw, I think that if you've got a reason to have a 20-minute interview segment, do it. But if you don't have a reason, don't do it. And usually there's not a reason.
Very, very few times is there really a legitimate reason for that long of an interview segment. They usually drag. Remember, one of the things about that NXT show on Wednesday, really hit me, was this was a 2-hour, it was a 2-hour, 20-minute show or 15-minute show, whatever it was. And, it was like so easy to watch. And I was thinking, there's no big gaps between the matches. You're just watching matches.
Yeah.
And they're good matches, and the crowd was staying hot. But if you had put a bunch of 20-minute segments in there and commercial breaks in there, which, unfortunately, that's a necessary evil of real television that NXT doesn't have. But if you did that, it would drag like any other show.
Well, let me say this too. If you watch the NXT television show, they do have interviews on the program. However,
but they're short.
They're very short. And a person would argue, well, it's because the show is only 1 hour and they don't have 3 hours. My argument would be that, guess what? Those takeover shows, those main event matches that we watched last Wednesday night, everybody was into them. Everybody knew all the stories. Everybody knew every storyline. And it was all done with short interview segments because that's all you needed. Everything else is just filler.
Well, the fact is that
there's no match that would have been better if you would have given them 5 times as long to do their interview.
No, probably all would have been worse.
They would have all been worse, exactly.
Yeah, because they'd have bored you to tears if they did long interviews. So, yeah, but it's just, can you fill 3 hours with just straight wrestling without boring people? I don't know. On television, I don't know.
I think that it would be very difficult.
Yeah. It's they're in a tough position. TNA with the 2 hours, we'll see. I watched the 2-hour show. I wouldn't say it was a good show. I wouldn't say it was a bad show. It was just kind of a show, but it did go faster to me than most TNA shows, and that's because it was, a few interviews, but they were all short. Not a lot of storyline, not a lot of bullshit, just kind of wrestling, and you had your good matches and your bad matches, and the matches had, decent time. I don't know if anything felt, nothing was rushed. The short matches, kind of felt like they should have been short matches. So, it was okay. But but it's like I said, in 5-6 weeks, when we look back at the pattern, if the rating stays up, and if the rating goes down, then, if the rating goes way down below the other thing, then it's like, okay, that's what you need. It's just a learning thing. I don't have any answers and say like, oh, this is what's going to happen. It's like, I'm very interested in learning that when you take away the status quo and you do something different, if it doesn't go down, it makes me question the status quo. And I never really bought TNA status quo. So maybe that's why I'm pretty open.
Yeah, but you know what? Sometimes when you do something different, it starts out being successful, but at the end of the day, it's not the best thing long term. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I don't see how this would be any long-term catastrophe.
No, I don't think that a
I mean,
wrestling show with wrestling would be a long-term catastrophe.
I mean, it's like less long interview time between matches. That's not like if you did a thing where, okay, and this could in theory work. Like if you did a thing where we're not going to plug the pay-per-views at all. We're going to.
That's a bad idea.
Yeah, and it's like you can keep the rating could stay up, and you go, well, our ratings are still up. But it's like, it's like not necessarily a good thing in the long run. But they don't have pay-per-views, and that's on the
topic of that, it does amaze me that
I know that they just did a pay-per-view, but they really
no. What I'm saying is
they don't really have them, and then when they do, they only promote them for a week or two, which is another issue completely. And then they don't draw. That's one where I would just go like, okay, we promote our pay-per-views for 2 weeks, and UFC promotes their pay-per-views for 3 months, and boxing promotes their pay-per-views for 2 or 3 months, and they're all doing better than us, and we're doing really crummy.
They'll all point to WWE.